The fog clung to Ashbourne Manor like a shroud, its turrets piercing the 1930s gloom. Inside, candlelight flickered over crystal and silver, where Lord Reginald Ashbourne hosted his final dinner. Laughter turned to gasps as he clutched his throat, wineglass shattering on the oak floor. Poison, swift and merciless, claimed him before dessert. Guests froze. His wife, doctor, secretary, and nephew each face a mask of shock or secrets. Hercule Poirot, present by chance, stroked his moustache. A heinous act indeed. Who among them wielded death's silent hand? The game of truth had begun. Chapter 1. The scene of the crime. The fog draped Ashbourne Manor like a conspirator's cloak, its grey tendrils curling around the 1930s estate as if to guard its secrets. The manor's Gothic turrets stabbed at the overcast sky, and its ivy-clad walls seemed to whisper of ages past. Inside, the dining hall glowed with the warmth of candlelight, where crystal goblets and silver cutlery gleamed on a mahogany table. Lord Reginald Ashbourne, patriarch of this ancient lineage, presided over a dinner party that would be his last. His guests, family, confidants, and a certain Belgian detective savoured the aroma of roasted pheasant and claret, unaware that death sat among them. Hercule Poirot, invited by chance through a mutual acquaintance, observed the scene with his usual precision. His small, fastidious frame was immaculate in a tailored suit, his moustache waxed to perfection. He noted the subtle tensions, a fleeting glance, a tightened grip on a wineglass, a laugh too shrill to be genuine. The human heart, he mused, is a puzzle more intricate than any crime. His grey cells, as he called them, hummed with curiosity. Lord Reginald, a robust man in his 60s, with a mane of silver hair, raised his glass for a toast. "To legacy," he declared, his voice resonant with pride. The guests echoed the sentiment. Lady Evelyn Ashbourne, his elegant wife, Dr. Mortimer Crane, the family physician, Clara Henshaw, the devoted secretary, and Victor Langley, the estranged nephew. The clink of glasses rang like a bell tolling fate. Moments later, the air shattered. Reginald's face contorted, his hand clawing at his throat. The wineglass slipped from his fingers, splintering on the oak floor in a cascade of crimson and crystal. He gasped, a horrible guttural sound, and collapsed, his body convulsing briefly before stilling. A faint foam bubbled at his lips, and the acrid scent of bitter almonds pierced the air. Silence gripped the room, broken only by Evelyn's scream. "Reginald!" she cried, rushing to his side, her silk gown pooling like blood. Dr. Crane knelt swiftly, pressing fingers to Reginald's wrist, but his grim shake of the head confirmed the truth. "He's gone," Crane muttered. "Poison, I'd wager." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "Cyanide," he said softly, his accent precise, swift, merciless, and deliberate. He stepped forward, his polished shoes silent on the rug, and surveyed the chaos with the calm of a chess master. The guests stood frozen, their faces a gallery of shock, fear, or, Poirot noted, calculation. "Remain where you are, mes amis," Poirot commanded, his voice deceptively gentle. "A heinous act has been committed, and the truth, it hides among you." He knelt by the body, careful not to disturb the scene. The shattered wineglass lay in fragments, its contents seeping into the wood. He inhaled deeply, confirming the telltale almond-like odour. The poison had been in the wine, but how had it reached Reginald alone? The butler, a wiry man named Hawkins, hovered nervously. "Shall I fetch the police, sir?" he asked. "Oui, at once," Poirot replied. "But first tell me, the wine, it was poured from a single decanter?" "Yes, sir," Hawkins said, pointing to a crystal decanter on the sideboard. I poured each glass myself, just before the toast." Poirot's gaze swept the table. 5 glasses, 4 still full, stood untouched by the other guests. "And no one else drank?" he pressed. "No, sir. Lord Ashbourne insisted on the toast first." A clue, Poirot thought, or a deception. If the decanter was untainted, the poison must have been added to Reginald's glass alone. But by whom? His eyes flicked to the suspects, each a piece in this deadly puzzle. Lady Evelyn knelt beside her husband, her face buried in a lace handkerchief. Her auburn hair, swept into an elegant chignon, gleamed in the candlelight. But her trembling shoulders suggested grief, or a performance. Poirot noted her proximity to Reginald during the toast. Her glass had been beside his. Opportunity, perhaps. Dr. Mortimer Crane, a lean man with sharp features and thinning hair, adjusted his spectacles nervously. As a physician, he had access to poisons, and his medical bag rested ominously in the corner. His quick diagnosis of poison intrigued Poirot. Knowledge or guilt? Crane had been seated across from Reginald, close enough to tamper with the glass during the meal's distractions. Clara Henshaw, the secretary, stood rigidly by the wall, her plain grey dress blending with the shadows. Her mousy hair and pinched expression belied a keen intelligence Poirot had noticed earlier. She clutched a notebook, her knuckles white. As Reginald's confidant, she knew his secrets and perhaps those of others. Had she been near the table when the wine was poured? Victor Langley, the nephew, lounged against a pillar, his handsome face marred by a sneer. His tailored suit was slightly dishevelled, hinting at a life of excess. Disinherited years ago, his presence at the dinner was unexpected. His eyes, dark and defiant, met Poirot's without flinching. A man with a grudge, Poirot mused, and perhaps a plan. Poirot addressed the group. "This poison, it requires precision. Cyanide does not appear by accident. Someone in this room intended Lord Ashbourne's death." His words hung, like the fog outside, heavy and inescapable. Evelyn rose, her voice quivering. "How dare you accuse us? Reginald was my life." Her indignation felt rehearsed, and Poirot noted a flicker of unease in her emerald eyes. "Madame, I accuse no one, yet," Poirot said smoothly. "But the truth, it will reveal itself through order and method." He turned to Hawkins. "The guest list, the menu, and a diagram of the seating, s'il vous plaît." As Hawkins hurried off, Dr. Crane cleared his throat. "This is preposterous. Reginald had a weak heart. Perhaps his medication—" "Non," Poirot interrupted. "The foam, the odour, these are not the signs of a heart's failure, but of a murderer's success." Crane's face reddened, and he fell silent. Poirot's attention returned to the crime scene. He examined the table, noting the precise arrangement of plates and cutlery. A single detail caught his eye: a faint smudge on Reginald's glass, as if a finger had brushed its rim. He filed it away, his mind already weaving connections. A maid, hovering at the doorway, whispered to Hawkins, who approached Poirot. "Sir, the maid says she overheard an argument a few days ago. Lord Ashbourne and Mr. Langley, in the study. Something about money." Victor's head snapped up. "Lies! I barely spoke to him." Poirot raised a hand. "We shall see, monsieur. All threads, they lead to the truth." His gaze lingered on Victor, whose fists clenched. Inheritance, Poirot thought. A motive as old as time. He moved to the sideboard, inspecting the decanter. Its crystal was pristine, but a tiny droplet clung to its lip. He dabbed it with a handkerchief, noting its faint almond scent. "The poison! It was here," he murmured. "But when?" The butler's testimony suggested the wine was poured moments before, yet the poison reached only Reginald. A sleight of hand, perhaps, during the meal's chaos. Evelyn's handkerchief fluttered to the floor, and Poirot's sharp eyes followed it. As he bent to retrieve it, a glint beneath the table caught his attention. A small glass vial, barely an inch long, half hidden by a table leg. He slipped it into his pocket unnoticed, his heart quickening. A clue, tangible and damning. Its surface bore faint etchings, initials perhaps, but the light was too dim to read them now. He rose, addressing the group. The police will arrive soon, but until then no one leaves this manor. The answers, they are here, in this room, in your words, in your silences. Clara's voice, barely audible, broke the tension. He didn't deserve this. Her eyes glistened, but Poirot wondered if her loyalty masked deeper truths. Dr. Crane shifted uncomfortably. This is a tragedy, not a parlour game. I must check my medical bag. It's in the hall. No, monsieur, Poirot said sharply. Nothing is touched until I permit it. Crane's jaw tightened, and Poirot noted his unease. A bag of medicines, or poisons, the manor's grandfather clock chimed, its sombre toll echoing through the hall. Each tick seemed to tighten the noose of suspicion. Poirot's mind raced, piecing together the evening's events. The toast, the glass, the vial, the motives. Evelyn's wealth, Crane's access, Clara's secrets, Victor's grudge, each suspect a thread in a tapestry of deceit. He approached Reginald's body once more, studying the man who had become the centre of this enigma. Reginald Ashbourne, a titan of industry and tradition, had enemies, debts, and perhaps betrayals. His death was no accident, but a calculated strike. Poirot's fingers brushed the vial in his pocket. Whose hand had dropped it? Whose heart had planned this? The fog outside thickened, sealing the manor in its grip. Poirot straightened, his eyes gleaming with resolve. The game, it is afoot, he said softly, and Hercule Poirot, he does not lose. Chapter 2. Shadows of Motive. The drawing-room of Ashbourne Manor exhaled the weight of its secrets, its velvet drapes absorbing the candlelight as if reluctant to reveal the truth. The fog outside pressed against the tall windows, a silent accomplice to the crime within. Hercule Poirot stood at the room's centre, his small, immaculate figure commanding attention. His moustache twitched as he surveyed the four suspects, Lady Evelyn Ashbourne, Dr. Mortimer Crane, Clara Henshaw, and Victor Langley, each seated in a semicircle of suspicion. The air was thick with unspoken accusations, and Poirot's grey cells buzzed like a finely tuned engine. "Mes amis," he began, his voice a velvet blade. "Lord Reginald Ashbourne is dead, poisoned by cyanide in his wine. This was no accident but a heinous act, planned with precision. To find the guilty, we must uncover the why. Tell me, who stands to gain from his death?" His eyes, sharp as a falcon's, darted from face to face, noting every flinch, every flicker. Lady Evelyn, resplendent in her emerald gown, sat ramrod straight, her diamonds catching the light like frozen tears. "The estate is mine," she said, her voice steady but her fingers twisting a lace handkerchief. "Reginald's will names me as primary heir, but I loved him. I had no reason to wish him gone." Her words carried the polish of rehearsal, and Poirot noted the faint tremor in her hands. Grief or guilt? Dr. Mortimer Crane, his spectacles glinting, shifted in his armchair. "I gain nothing," he said curtly. "As his physician, I was paid generously. His death ends my income from this household." His tone was defensive, and Poirot observed the nervous tap of his foot. A man with access to poisons, perhaps with debts or secrets of his own. Clara Henshaw, the secretary, clutched her notebook as if it were a shield. Her grey dress blended with the shadows, but her pale eyes met Poirot's with quiet defiance. I typed his documents, including a new will, she admitted, her voice soft but clear. It was unsigned, still in draft. I have no claim to his fortune. Her honesty intrigued Poirot, yet her rigid posture suggested fear of the truth or of someone in the room. Victor Langley, the nephew, sprawled in his chair with a defiance that bordered on insolence. His dark hair fell over one eye, and his tailored suit bore the creases of a careless life. "He cut me out years ago," he scoffed, lighting a cigarette with a flick of his silver lighter. "I got nothing from the old man, dead or alive." His bitterness was palpable, and Poirot noted the faint smirk that played on his lips. A man scorned, perhaps driven to reclaim what he believed was his. Poirot paced slowly, his polished shoes silent on the Persian rug. "Money, it is a powerful motive," he said, "but so too are love, betrayal, revenge. Let us explore these shadows." He turned to Evelyn, his gaze piercing. "Madam, the manor's finances, were they as robust as its reputation?" Evelyn's composure faltered, her lips parting before she spoke. "Reginald managed the accounts," she said carefully. "There were challenges. Investments failed, and some debts remained. But we were recovering." Her hesitation was a crack in her façade, and Poirot pounced. "Debts, madame. Enough to sell your ancestral jewels, perhaps." Her eyes widened, a flush creeping up her neck. "How did you—" "No, I refused to part with them. Reginald promised we'd find another way." Her voice trembled, and Poirot filed away her desperation. A woman facing ruin might act to secure her future. He turned to Victor. "Monsieur Langley, you were estranged, yet here you are. Why this dinner, this night?" Victor exhaled a plume of smoke, his smirk fading. "Clara invited me. Said Reginald wanted to reconcile. I came hoping for a handout, sure. He laughed in my face 2 days ago, called me a wastrel. But I didn't kill him." His defiance rang hollow, and Poirot noted the tension in his jaw. A rejected plea could kindle rage. "Miss Henshaw," Poirot said, pivoting to Clara, "you typed this new will. What did it change?" Clara's fingers tightened on her notebook. It favoured Evelyn, as before, but added charitable bequests. Reginald was reconsidering some terms. Her vagueness intrigued Poirot. Did she know more than she revealed, or was she protecting someone? Dr. Crane cleared his throat. "This is pointless," he snapped. "I treated Reginald's heart condition for years. If I wanted him dead, I'd have done it subtly, not with cyanide at a dinner table." His indignation felt forced, and Poirot's gaze lingered on his medical bag, still untouched in the hall. A maid entered, delivering the guest list and seating chart Poirot had requested. He studied them, noting the table's arrangement. Evelyn beside Reginald, Crane across, Clara nearby, Victor at the far end. All were close enough to tamper with the wine glass during the meal's distractions, except Victor, who claimed to have stepped outside to smoke. A convenient alibi, or a lie? Poirot's questions grew sharper. "Madame Ashbourne, you spoke with Clara during the toast. Did you see anyone near the decanter?" Evelyn frowned, as if recalling. "No, I was distracted. The pheasant was exquisite." Her evasiveness was a red flag, and Poirot pressed further. "Dr. Crane, you diagnosed poison instantly. Unusual for a heart specialist." Crane bristled. "I've seen cyanide cases in my training. The foam, the smell, it's unmistakable." His knowledge was damning, and Poirot noted his sweat-beaded brow. A red herring emerged when Hawkins the butler mentioned a discovery in Reginald's study. A letter found that morning accusing Victor of stealing from the estate years ago. Victor leapt to his feet, crushing his cigarette. "That's a lie! I never stole a penny!" Poirot requested the letter, and Hawkins fetched it. The paper was crisp, its ink fresh, too new for a years-old accusation. "A forgery," Poirot murmured, planted to cast suspicion. Victor's outrage seemed genuine, but Poirot wondered if the letter's true purpose was to distract. He circled back to Clara. "Miss Henshaw, you invited Victor. Why?" Clara hesitated, her eyes darting to Evelyn. "Reginald asked me to. He said it was time to mend bridges." Her words lacked conviction, and Poirot sensed a hidden loyalty, or fear. The vial in Poirot's pocket, retrieved from beneath the dining table, seemed to pulse with significance. Its etched initials, MC, pointed to Mortimer Crane, but its placement felt too convenient. A frame or a careless mistake? He kept it hidden, revealing nothing to the suspects. Poirot's deductions deepened. The cyanide required opportunity and intent. Evelyn's financial strain suggested a motive to secure the estate. Victor's rejection by Reginald could have sparked vengeance. Clara's access to Reginald's plans gave her power, and perhaps temptation. Crane's medical expertise made him a natural suspect, yet his defensiveness hinted at something personal. He probed further, asking about Reginald's relationships. Evelyn admitted to occasional quarrels, but insisted they were devoted. Victor scoffed, hinting at Reginald's distrust of Crane's treatments. Clara revealed Reginald's recent paranoia about his health, confiding in her about unusual symptoms. Crane dismissed this as hypochondria, but his unease grew. A false clue surfaced. A servant claimed to have seen Evelyn flirting with a guest weeks prior, suggesting infidelity. Evelyn laughed, a brittle sound. "Gossip, nothing more. I was charming a potential investor." Her dismissal was swift, but Poirot noted her clenched fists. A lover or a partner in crime? As the interrogation stretched on, the room's opulence felt stifling, its portraits of Ashbourne ancestors glaring down like judges. Poirot's method was relentless, peeling back layers of motive and deception. He asked about the dinner's preparation, learning Clara had overseen the invitations and menu. Could she have orchestrated more than a meal? The grandfather clock chimed, its sombre notes a reminder of time's pressure. The police would soon arrive, but Poirot needed answers now. He dismissed the suspects, instructing them to remain in the manor. As they dispersed, he lingered, his eyes scanning the room for overlooked details. Chapter 3. The Doctor's Defense. The library of Ashbourne Manor was a fortress of knowledge, its towering bookshelves laden with leather-bound tomes that seemed to guard the secrets of the house. A fire crackled in the hearth, casting flickering shadows across the oak-panelled walls. But the warmth did little to dispel the chill of suspicion. Hercule Poirot stood before a mahogany desk, his small, meticulous figure dwarfed by the room's grandeur. His eyes, sharp and unyielding, fixed on Dr. Mortimer Crane, who sat rigidly in a high-backed chair, his medical bag resting like a silent witness on the floor beside him. The fog outside the leaded windows thickened, sealing the manor in its conspiratorial embrace as the clock ticked toward the inevitable arrival of the police. Poirot adjusted his tie, his movements deliberate. "Dr. Crane," he began, his Belgian accent precise, "you are a man of science, entrusted with Lord Reginald Ashbourne's health. Yet he lies dead, poisoned by cyanide, a substance not unfamiliar to a physician, non?" His tone was polite, but the words cut like a scalpel, and Crane's spectacles glinted as he shifted uncomfortably. "I prescribed tonics, not poison," Crane snapped, his voice taut. "I've served this family for a decade. If I wished Reginald harm, I'd have done it discreetly, not with a spectacle at dinner." His fingers twitched, betraying a nervousness that Poirot noted with interest. "Discreetly, you say?" Poirot mused, pacing slowly, his polished shoes silent on the Persian rug. "Yet cyanide, it is swift, dramatic, a statement. Perhaps the killer wished to be seen to flaunt their cunning." He paused, his moustache twitching. "Tell me, Doctor, what was in your medical bag this evening?" Crane's face reddened. "The usual, stethoscope, bandages, Reginald's heart medication, nothing sinister." He gestured to the bag, but his eyes darted to it, as if fearing its contents might betray him. Poirot raised a hand. "We shall inspect it in time, but first, your movements. During the toast, you were not at the table, oui? You claimed to be checking your bag in the hall." "Exactly," Crane said too quickly. "I needed to ensure Reginald's pills were ready in case his heart troubled him. He'd been stressed lately." "Stressed?" Poirot's brow arched. "By what, precisely?" Crane hesitated, his gaze flickering to the fire. "Financial worries, I believe. He mentioned debts, but I didn't pry. My role was his health, not his ledger." Poirot's grey cells hummed. Crane's alibi lacked witnesses, and his proximity to the dining hall placed him near the decanter. A doctor trained in dosages and death could easily slip cyanide into a glass. But why? Gratitude for Reginald's patronage, or resentment for a hidden slight? He probed deeper, his voice soft but relentless. "Your past, Dr. Crane, it is not without shadows. A scandal in London, no? A patient's death? Questions of negligence? Reginald's support saved your career." Crane's jaw tightened, his hands gripping the chair's arms. "That was years ago, a misunderstanding. I was exonerated. Reginald believed in me, gave me a chance. I owed him everything." "Everything," Poirot echoed, his eyes narrowing. "And yet, a man who owes everything may feel trapped, humiliated by dependence. Or perhaps he sees a way to gain more, through an inheritance, a bribe, a secret deal." "That's absurd!" Crane stood, his voice rising. "I had no motive, no opportunity. I wasn't even at the table when he drank." Poirot remained unruffled, his gaze steady. "Calm yourself, monsieur. The truth, it does not yield to temper. Let us consider opportunity. The wine was poured by Hawkins, but the glass sat on the table, exposed to all. A moment's distraction, a laugh, a spilled fork, and a deft hand could act." Crane sank back into his chair, his defiance ebbing. "I saw nothing unusual," he muttered. Evelyn was beside him. Clara was fussing with her notebook. Victor was outside smoking. I was in the hall. Poirot filed away the details, noting Crane's attempt to shift focus. He changed tack. "Reginald's heart condition, how severe was it? Could it have mimicked poison's effects?" Crane shook his head. His condition was manageable with digitalis. Cyanide is unmistakable. Convulsions, foam, the almond-like odor. I recognized it instantly because I've studied toxicology." "Studied indeed," Poirot said, his tone laced with irony. "A dangerous knowledge in the wrong hands." He stepped closer, his voice lowering. "And cyanide, it is not difficult to obtain for a doctor, no? A laboratory, a pharmacy, a discreet supplier." Crane paled, his fingers trembling. "I keep no such substances. My bag contains only what's necessary. You're fishing, Poirot." "Fishing, perhaps," Poirot said, smiling faintly, "but with a net that catches truth." He turned to the desk, where Hawkins had placed the seating chart and menu. The chart confirmed Crane's position across from Reginald, close enough to observe or interfere. The menu noted the wine, a rare Bordeaux, poured from a single decanter. If Hawkins spoke true, the poison targeted Reginald's glass alone. A false clue emerged when a footman summoned by Poirot reported a sighting. "I saw Dr. Crane near the sideboard before dinner," the young man said, nervously. "He was adjusting something, maybe the decanter." Crane leapt up again. "A mistake! I was checking the room's temperature for Reginald's comfort. The footman's confused." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Confusion! It is the ally of deception. We shall verify, monsieur." He dismissed the footman, but the accusation lingered, a pebble in the stream of his deductions. Crane's proximity to the decanter was plausible, but the footman's hesitant tone suggested uncertainty, or coaching. The vial in Poirot's pocket, with its etched MC, weighed heavily on his mind. It pointed to Crane, yet its discovery beneath the table felt staged, as if meant to be found. A careless killer, or a cunning frame. He kept it hidden, revealing nothing, but his questions grew sharper. "Dr. Crane, you spoke of Reginald's stress. Did he confide in you about enemies, betrayals?" Crane hesitated, his gaze flickering. He was guarded, but he mentioned distrusting Victor, thought he was after money. And Clara, he said she knew too much about his affairs. Poirot's interest piqued. Clara, the quiet secretary, emerged again as a thread in this tapestry. "And Lady Evelyn? Did he trust her?" Crane shrugged, a touch too casually. "They had their quarrels. Every marriage does." Poirot noted the evasion. Crane's answers were a dance, sidestepping direct accusations while casting shadows on others. He pressed further, asking about Reginald's medication. "Digitalis, you said. A powerful drug easily misused. Did you prepare his doses personally?" "Of course," Crane said, his voice steadying. "I measured each dose myself. Reginald took his pills faithfully." "And yet," Poirot said, "he died not by pills, but by poison. Curious, no?" He let the question hang, watching Crane's discomfort grow. The library's atmosphere grew oppressive, the fire's crackle a counterpoint to the tension. Poirot's method was relentless, peeling back Crane's defences like layers of an onion. He asked about the dinner's timeline, confirming Crane's absence during the toast. "You returned just as Reginald collapsed," Poirot said. "Convenient for one who claims innocence." Crane's eyes flashed. "I was in the hall, I tell you. Ask Hawkins." "Hawkins," Poirot said, "will be questioned, but alibis, they crumble without witnesses." He stepped to the window, glancing at the fog-shrouded grounds. The manor felt like a chessboard, each suspect a piece in a deadly game. Crane's expertise, his access, his past, all pointed to opportunity. But motive remained elusive. A red herring surfaced when Poirot examined the desk, finding a medical journal among Crane's papers, bookmarked at an article on cyanide poisoning. "An interesting choice of reading," Poirot said, holding it up. Crane flushed. "I study many toxins. It's my profession. That proves nothing." "Perhaps," Poirot said, his smile enigmatic. "But the grey cells, they note everything." The journal was a coincidence, or a clue planted to mislead. Crane's agitation suggested the former, but Poirot reserved judgment. As the interrogation drew to a close, Poirot's mind wove together the threads. Crane's access to cyanide, his unwitnessed alibi, the footman's claim, the journal. Yet the vial's initials nagged at him, too obvious to trust. Was Crane the killer, or a pawn in another's scheme? He dismissed Crane, instructing him to remain in the manor. "The truth, it approaches," Poirot said, his voice soft but firm, "and it spares no one." Chapter 4. The Widow's Tears. Lady Evelyn Ashbourne's boudoir was a sanctuary of silk and sorrow, its rosewood furniture draped in soft lamplight. The air held the faint scent of lavender, but the fog pressing against the 1930s manor's windows lent a claustrophobic edge. Hercule Poirot stood near a velvet chaise, his meticulous figure, a stark contrast to the room's opulence. Evelyn sat at her vanity, her auburn hair gleaming, her emerald gown pooling like a shadow. Her lace handkerchief dabbed at dry eyes, and Poirot's grey cells stirred. Grief or a masterful performance? "Madam," Poirot began, his Belgian accent precise, "Lord Reginald's death leaves you the estate, yet you claim love, not gain, bound you to him. Help me understand this love." His tone was gentle, but his eyes, sharp as a blade, missed nothing. Evelyn's lips trembled. "Reginald was my life," she said, her voice a practised quiver. "We built this world together. His loss, it shatters me." She pressed the handkerchief to her mouth, but Poirot noted her steady gaze. A widow's tears, he mused, could mask a murderer's heart. He paced, his polished shoes silent on the Aubusson rug. "The manor's debts, madame, they strained your world, no? Reginald planned to sell your ancestral jewels. A bitter pill for a woman of pride." Evelyn's hand froze, her eyes narrowing. "He mentioned it, yes, but I refused. We'd have found another way." Her defiance cracked, and Poirot pounced. "Another way, perhaps, through his death. The estate, unencumbered by his debts, is yours alone. How dare you?" Evelyn stood, her diamonds flashing. "I loved him, Poirot. Accuse me if you must, but I'm no killer." Her outrage felt staged, and Poirot's moustache twitched. "Your movements, then," he said calmly. "During the toast, you were beside Reginald, your glass next to his. A moment's distraction, a laugh, a turn, and a hand could slip cyanide into his wine." Evelyn sank back, her face pale. "I was speaking with Clara about the dessert. I saw nothing." Her words were too smooth, her alibi too convenient. Poirot noted her proximity to the fatal glass, an opportunity too perfect to ignore. He changed tack. "Your marriage, madame. Was it as idyllic as you claim? Reginald's paranoia, his distrust of Dr. Crane's treatments, did he confide in you?" Evelyn hesitated, her fingers twisting the handkerchief. "He was worried, yes. Said he felt unwell. Blamed Crane's tonics. But we trusted each other." Her voice wavered, and Poirot sensed a half-truth. A red herring surfaced. A maid, questioned earlier, had whispered of Evelyn's flirtation with a guest at a recent ball, hinting at infidelity. Poirot tested it. "Madame, were you faithful to Reginald? Rumours suggest otherwise." Evelyn laughed, a brittle sound. "Gossip, nothing more. I charmed an investor to ease our debts. Reginald knew." Her dismissal was swift, but her clenched jaw betrayed unease. A lover, Poirot wondered, or a partner in crime? He pressed further, his voice soft but relentless. "The vial, madame, found beneath the table. Do you know of it?" Her eyes widened, a flicker of panic. "Vial! I know nothing of it." Her denial was too emphatic, and Poirot filed it away. The vial, etched with MC, pointed to Crane, but Evelyn's reaction suggested fear or knowledge. Poirot's deductions deepened. Evelyn's motive was clear, financial ruin loomed, and Reginald's death secured her wealth. Her opportunity, beside him at dinner, was undeniable. Yet her poise, her quick answers, suggested a mind prepared for scrutiny. Was she the architect of this crime, or a pawn in another's game? He studied the boudoir, noting a locked jewellery box on the vanity. "Your jewels, madame, still safe?" "Of course," she snapped, but her hand drifted to the box, protective. Poirot wondered if it held more than gems, perhaps a secret, a letter, a clue. As he prepared to leave, a maid's earlier remark resurfaced. Evelyn had met Victor Langley late one night in the garden. Poirot turned, his gaze piercing. "Madame, your meetings with Victor, Were they innocent? Evelyn froze, her handkerchief fluttering to the floor. "Victor! We discussed his return, nothing more." Her stammer was a chink in her armour, and Poirot's grey cell's word. A lover's pact, or a plot to kill. Chapter 5. The Secretary's Silence. The study of Ashbourne Manor was a bastion of order, its polished desk and neatly stacked ledgers a testament to Clara Henshaw's meticulous care. The fog outside clung to the 1930s estate, muffling the world beyond the leaded windows. Hercule Poirot stood near a bookshelf, his fastidious figure framed by leather-bound volumes. Clara sat at the desk, her grey dress stark against the room's warmth, her mousy hair pinned tightly. Her hands, clutching a notebook, trembled faintly, and Poirot's grey cells hummed. Loyalty or fear held her tongue. "Miss Henshaw," Poirot began, his Belgian accent precise. "You were Lord Reginald's shadow, privy to his secrets, yet you claim no knowledge of his killer. Help me see the truth through your silence." His voice was gentle, but his eyes, keen as a hawk's, missed nothing. Clara's lips parted, then closed. "I served him faithfully," she said softly, her voice steady but her gaze averted. "I typed his letters, managed his affairs. I saw no poison, no plot." Her words were a shield, and Poirot sensed a deeper current beneath her calm. He paced, his shoes silent on the rug. "You invited Victor Langley to dinner, on Reginald's orders. Curious, for an estranged nephew. Why this reconciliation? And why you?" Clara's fingers tightened on the notebook. "Reginald wanted to mend things. He asked me to send the invitation. I didn't question it." Her hesitation was a crack, and Poirot pressed forward. "And the new will, Miss Henshaw? You typed it. Did it favour Lady Evelyn, or hide other surprises?" "It was a draft," she said quickly. "Evelyn inherited most, with some charities added. It wasn't signed." Her eyes flicked to the desk, where a locked drawer hinted at secrets. Poirot noted her unease. He shifted tack. "Your position gave you access to the dining room, the wine, the guests. During the toast, you were near the table, no? A moment's chaos and a hand could act." Clara paled, her voice rising. "I fetched a shawl for Evelyn. I didn't touch the wine." Her alibi, like the others, lacked witnesses. And Poirot's moustache twitched. Opportunity, he thought, but motive? A red herring emerged. A servant had found an unsigned love letter in Clara's room, addressed to her but vague. Poirot tested it. "Miss Henshaw, a letter speaks of love. Did Reginald perhaps inspire such devotion?" Her cheeks flushed, her eyes wide. "That's private. It's nothing to do with this." Her embarrassment seemed genuine, but Poirot wondered if the letter masked a deeper truth. Love or leverage? He pressed on, his voice soft but relentless. "Reginald trusted you, yet he was paranoid, fearing betrayal. Did he suspect anyone? Dr. Crane, perhaps?" Clara's gaze dropped. "He questioned Crane's tonics. Said he felt worse, not better. I told him to see another doctor, but he wouldn't." Her admission was a thread, tying Crane to suspicion, but her reluctance suggested fear of reprisal. Poirot's deductions deepened. Clara's role gave her power, knowledge of Reginald's plans, access to the dinner's details. Could she have slipped cyanide into the wine, driven by unrequited love or a hidden grudge? Yet her fear, her silences, pointed to another's influence. The vial in his pocket, etched with MC, nagged at him, Crane or a clever misdirection. He studied the study, noting the locked drawer. "Your records, Miss Henshaw. May I see them?" "They're confidential," she said, too sharply, her hand hovering near the desk. Poirot's interest piqued. A diary, perhaps? Or proof of betrayal? A false clue surfaced. The butler mentioned Clara adjusting the wine glasses before dinner, a routine task. Poirot probed. You handled the glasses, no? Chance to tamper. Clara shook her head vehemently. I only straightened them. It was my duty. Her panic was telling, but Poirot reserved judgment, duty or deception. As he prepared to leave, a maid's remark echoed. Clara had argued with Crane days prior, their voices hushed but heated. Poirot turned, his gaze piercing. Miss Henshaw, you and Dr. Crane, did you clash over Reginald's care? Clara froze, her voice barely audible. I questioned his methods, that's all. Her evasion was a flare, and Poirot's grey cells whirred. Chapter 6. The Nephew's Grudge. The billiard room of Ashbourne Manor exuded a masculine air, its green felt table scarred by years of games, cues racked like silent sentinels. The fog outside the 1930s estate's windows blurred the night, turning the grounds into a ghostly haze. Hercule Poirot leaned against the table, his immaculate suit a contrast to the room's disarray. Victor Langley lounged in a leather armchair, his handsome face twisted in a sneer, dark hair tousled, his cigarette smoke curling like deceit. Poirot's grey cells thrummed. Here was a man with fire in his veins, but was it rage or remorse? Monsieur Langley, Poirot began, his Belgian accent sharp, you are the black sheep, disinherited yet invited to the slaughter. A grudge, it simmers, no? Tell me, why kill the uncle who scorned you? His voice was calm, but his eyes pierced like daggers. Victor exhaled smoke, his laugh bitter. Kill him? I despised Reginald Shaw. He cut me off like a rotten branch. But murder? That's your fantasy, Poirot. His defiance was a mask, and Poirot noted the flicker in his eyes, fear or fury. Poirot paced, his shoes clicking softly on the parquet floor. You're past, monsieur. Chemistry studies at Oxford, expelled for misconduct. Cyanide, it is child's play for one like you. Victor's smirk faded, his fists clenching. Ancient history. I dabbled in labs, yes, but I'm no poisoner. Reginald owed me, squandered my inheritance on bad deals. I came to beg, not bury him. His voice cracked, and Poirot sensed a kernel of truth amid the lies. He pressed on. Your alibi, monsieur. You smoked outside during the toast, yet no one saw you. The garden door is near the dining hall, a quick slip inside to tamper with the wine. Victor stubbed out his cigarette. I was alone, yes. Needed air after Reginald's barbs. Ask the gardener. He might have glimpsed me. His words were too eager, and Poirot's moustache twitched. An alibi built on shadows. A red herring emerged, the forged letter accusing Victor of theft, planted in Reginald's study. Poirot held it up. This, monsieur, your handiwork to stir suspicion elsewhere? Victor's eyes narrowed. Never saw it before. Someone's framing me, Poirot. Maybe Evelyn, to keep her jewels. His accusation was a diversion, but Poirot noted his knowledge of the debts. Insider details or eavesdropping? He changed. Tack. Reginald rebuffed your plea 2 days ago. Words were exchanged, heated. Revenge. It is a potent motive. Victor leaned forward, his voice low. He called me a failure, said I'd never see a penny. I stormed out, but kill him? No, I needed him alive to change his mind. His bitterness rang true, yet Poirot wondered at the depths of his resentment. Poirot's deductions sharpened. Victor's chemistry background gave him means, his grudge, motive, his absence, opportunity. Yet the vile-etched MC pointed elsewhere, Crane, or a misdirection to shield Victor. The nephew's presence, invited by Clara, suggested a web of alliances. Was Victor the spider, or a fly? He studied the billiard table, noting a cue with a chalked tip. Victor's, perhaps, a tool for distraction. Monsieur, a stolen watch from Reginald's collection. Blamed on you. Another frame? Victor scoffed. Planted, like the letter. I'm the easy target, the wastrel nephew. His outrage seemed genuine, but Poirot reserved judgment. Deceptions layered like fog. A false clue surfaced. A burned note in the fireplace, ashes still warm. Poirot retrieved a fragment. This, monsieur, a debt receipt. To whom do you owe? Victor paled, snatching at it. Private business, a loan from a friend repaid. Nothing to do with Reginald? His panic was telling, and Poirot pocketed the scrap. A debt to Crane, perhaps, or Evelyn. Poirot's voice softened, probing deeper. Your late-night meeting with Lady Evelyn in the garden, what was discussed? Victor froze, his eyes darting. She sympathized with my plight. Offered advice, nothing more. His stammer betrayed intimacy, and Poirot's grey cells whirred. Lovers or conspirators? Evelyn's jewels, Victor's debts, a pact sealed in poison? He circled back. Clara invited you, on Reginald's orders, but she fears Dr. Crane. Do you share her suspicions? Victor shrugged. Crane's a quack. Reginald complained about his tonics. Maybe Crane did it, to cover his mistakes. His deflection was clumsy, shifting blame to protect himself, or another. The room's atmosphere grew heavy, the billiard balls gleaming like eyes in judgment. Poirot's method was unyielding, unraveling Victor's defences. The nephew's grudge was clear, but was it the spark of murder? The vial nagged at him, too obvious for Victor's cunning. As he prepared to dismiss Victor, a servant's whisper echoed. Victor had studied poisons in school, a thesis on cyanide. Poirot turned, his gaze intense. Monsieur, your knowledge of cyanide, it is expert, non? Victor stood, his face ashen. Coincidence, I'm innocent, Poirot. His protest rang hollow, and Poirot let him go, the threads tightening. Chapter 7. The Vial's Secret. The conservatory of Ashbourne Manor was a glass-walled haven, its tropical plants bathed in the dim glow of a single lamp. The fog outside pressed against the 1930s estate's windows, blurring the boundary between reality and deception. Hercule Poirot stood beside a fern, his fastidious figure silhouetted against the mist. The vial, retrieved from beneath the dining table, rested in his pocket, its etched initials, MC, a silent accusation. His grey cells whirred, piecing together the threads of Lord Reginald Ashbourne's murder. The air was humid, heavy with the scent of earth and suspicion. Poirot had summoned Dr. Mortimer Crane to the conservatory, but first he consulted a chemist friend by telephone, confirming the vial's contents. Cyanide, pure and lethal. Its presence beneath the table suggested a dropped clue, or a deliberate plant. Now, facing Crane, Poirot's eyes gleamed with purpose. Dr. Crane, he began, his Belgian accent sharp, this vial found at the scene bears your initials. Cyanide, monsieur, the very poison that killed Reginald. Explain. His voice was calm, but the accusation landed like a stone, and Crane's spectacles glinted as he recoiled. Crane's face drained of colour, his hands fumbling. My initials! Impossible! I've never seen it! Someone's framing me, Poirot! His voice cracked, a mix of panic and indignation, but Poirot noted his trembling fingers. Fear or guilt? Poirot paced, his shoes clicking on the tiled floor. A frame, you say? Yet you, a physician, have access to such poisons. The vial's placement, beneath the table, near your seat, suggests carelessness or cunning. He held up a hand, forestalling Crane's protest. Let us examine the facts. The wine, poured from one decanter, killed only Reginald. How? Crane swallowed hard. I don't know. I was in the hall, checking my bag, I told you. His alibi, repeated too often, rang hollow, and Poirot's moustache twitched. He shifted tack, producing a handkerchief to dab a leaf stew, a deliberate pause. "The decanter, monsieur. I tested it with the chemist, a faint residue, cyanide in its lip. Only one glass was poisoned, Reginald's. You were near the sideboard, seen by a footman." "That's a lie," Crane snapped, his voice rising. "The footman's mistaken. I adjusted nothing." His denial was vehement, but sweat beaded his brow, and Poirot's grey cells hummed. Poirot's deductions deepened. The vial implicated Crane, but its obviousness troubled him. A killer so careless, or a plot to deflect blame? Evelyn, Clara, and Victor had motives: wealth, fear, revenge, but Crane's expertise made him a prime suspect. Yet the initials, the vial's placement, felt staged, a red herring to cloud the truth. He pressed further. "Your bag, Dr. Crane, still unexamined. What might it reveal? Vials, perhaps, like this one?" Crane's eyes darted to the door. "My bag holds medicines, nothing more. Search it, if you must." His offer was bold, but Poirot sensed a bluff. The bag, he resolved, would be inspected soon. A false clue emerged: the medical journal in Crane's room, bookmarked at cyanide poisoning. Poirot raised it now. "Your reading, monsieur. Most specific. Preparation or coincidence?" Crane flushed. "I study toxins. It's my field. That journal's years old." His defence was plausible, but his agitation betrayed unease, and Poirot filed it away. He circled back to the dinner. "You returned as Reginald collapsed, diagnosing poison instantly. A doctor's instinct or a killer's certainty?" "I've seen cyanide before," Crane said, steadier now. "In training, not practice. The foam, the smell, it's unmistakable." His knowledge, once again, was a double-edged sword, and Poirot's gaze sharpened. The conservatory's air grew stifling, the plants seeming to lean in, witnesses to the unraveling. Poirot's method was relentless, testing Crane's story against the evidence. The vial's initials pointed to him, but Victor's burned note, with its half-charred cra, suggested a debt or alliance. Was Crane the mastermind or a pawn? He probed deeper. "Reginald distrusted your tonics, non? Clara said he felt worse. Did he suspect you?" Crane's jaw tightened. "He was paranoid, imagining ailments. I adjusted his digitalis carefully. He trusted me." His words were firm, but Poirot noted a flicker of doubt. Clara's fear of Crane, her whispered, "He knew too much," echoed in his mind. A new thread emerged. The seating chart, studied earlier, placed Crane across from Reginald, close enough to tamper during the meal's distractions. Evelyn and Clara were nearer, but Crane's absence during the toast was suspicious. "You returned just as he drank," Poirot said. "A convenient moment, monsieur." Crane stood, his voice desperate. "I'm innocent, Poirot. Someone planted that vial. Evelyn, maybe, to save her fortune." His accusation shifted blame, but Poirot's calm held firm. The vial's secret was a puzzle piece, but not the whole. Poirot's deductions wove together: Crane's access, his alibi's weakness, the footman's claim. Yet the vial's placement suggested another hand. Evelyn's greed, Clara's fear, Victor's grudge. The truth hovered, tantalizingly close. As he dismissed Crane, Poirot lingered, his fingers brushing a fern. The butler's earlier remark resurfaced. Clara had adjusted the glasses before dinner, a routine task, or sabotage. Chapter 8. The Diary's Truth. The attic room of Ashbourne Manor, Clara Henshaw's modest quarters, was a stark contrast to the estate's grandeur. Its slanted ceiling and single window, clouded by the 1930s fog, trapped the air in a hush of secrets. Hercule Poirot stood near a narrow bed, his fastidious suit impeccable despite the dust. Clara sat on a wooden chair, her grey dress blending with the gloom, her hands clasped tightly. A locked diary, retrieved from her desk with a locksmith's aid, rested in Poirot's hands, its leather cover worn but unyielding. His grey cells thrummed. The vial's initials MC still pointed to Crane, but Clara's silences whispered of deeper truths. "Miss Henshaw," Poirot began, his Belgian accent precise. "This diary, it holds your heart's confessions. Lord Reginald's death demands I read it. What will it reveal, loyalty or betrayal?" His voice was gentle, but his eyes, sharp as a blade, pinned her. Clara's face paled, her voice a whisper. "It's private. My thoughts, nothing more. I didn't kill him." Her plea trembled, and Poirot noted her knuckles whitening. Fear, he mused, but of exposure or guilt. He opened the diary, its pages dense with neat script. "You wrote of Reginald," he said, scanning an entry. "His kindness blinds him to danger." "Danger, mademoiselle? From whom?" Clara's eyes darted to the floor. "He trusted too easily. I worried for him." Her vagueness was a shield, and Poirot pressed forward, his fingers tracing a passage. "Here," he said, "you speak of Dr. Crane. His experiments frighten me. Reginald weakens daily." "Experiments, Miss Henshaw?" Clara's breath hitched. "Crane's tonics. Reginald felt worse, not better. I saw him with a vial once, in his study. I thought, poison." Her admission cracked her reserve, and Poirot's moustache twitched. The vial in his pocket, etched MC, seemed to pulse. Crane's, or a frame she suspected. He paced, his shoes soft on the creaking floorboards. "You suspected Crane, yet said nothing. Why protect a killer? Or did you act to stop him?" Clara stood, her voice rising. "I'd never harm Reginald. I loved him." Her confession spilled like a dam breaking, her cheeks flushing. "He didn't know, but I'd have died for him." Her passion was raw, and Poirot's grey cells word, love, a motive as potent as greed. He tested her. "This love, mademoiselle, did it drive you to poison, to free him from Crane's grasp?" "No." Clara's eyes brimmed with tears. "I saw Crane with the vial, I swear. I told no one. I was afraid." Her fear rang true, but Poirot wondered if it masked cunning. A red herring surfaced, the love letter found in her room, unsigned. Poirot raised it. "This letter, Miss Henshaw, Reginald's words or another's to manipulate you." Clara blushed, shaking her head. "A fantasy, mine alone. I wrote it to dream." Her shame was genuine, and Poirot dismissed the letter as a distraction, not a clue. His deductions deepened. Clara's diary revealed her devotion, her suspicions of Crane, but no proof of her guilt. Her access to the dinner, adjusting glasses, gave opportunity. Yet her fear of Crane suggested she was a witness, not a killer. The vial, dropped beneath the table, could be Crane's or hers, planted to deflect blame. Evelyn's wealth, Victor's grudge, Crane's expertise. Each suspect wove into her narrative. He pressed further. "You argued with Crane days ago. The maid heard you. What did you fear he knew?" Clara's hands twisted. "I accused him of harming Reginald. He laughed, said I was hysterical, but his eyes, they terrified me." Her terror was palpable, and Poirot noted its intensity. Crane's shadow loomed large. A false clue emerged. The butler's claim that Clara adjusted the wineglasses before dinner. Poirot probed. "The glasses, mademoiselle. Your touch, innocent or intentional?" "I only straightened them," she insisted, her voice desperate. "It was my duty, nothing more." Her panic suggested innocence, but Poirot reserved judgment. Duty could cloak deceit. The attic's air grew heavy, the fog outside a silent judge. Poirot's method was relentless, unraveling Clara's defences. Her love for Reginald, her fear of Crane, painted her as a victim. Yet her silences hinted at complicity. The vial's initials nagged at him, too obvious for Crane, too distant for Clara. Was she the key or a pawn? He studied the diary's final entry. He knows too much. I must act. Poirot's gaze sharpened. This Miss Henshaw. Who knew too much? Reginald or Crane? Clara froze, her voice barely audible. Crane. He saw my suspicions. I thought he'd silence me. Her words aligned with her earlier whisper to Crane, overheard by Poirot. He knew too much. A warning or a threat? As he prepared to leave, Evelyn's late-night meeting with Victor flickered in his mind. Clara's diary mentioned no such alliance, but her fear suggested she knew more. Mademoiselle, Evelyn and Victor, did they conspire? Clara's eyes widened. I saw them in the garden, whispering. I didn't hear. Her admission was a thread, tying the suspects tighter. Chapter 9. The Final Deduction. The dining hall of Ashbourne Manor gleamed with the ghosts of its fatal evening, its long mahogany table now bare, save for the weight of truth. The fog outside the 1930s estate's windows clung like a shroud, dimming the candlelight that flickered over the assembled suspects. Lady Evelyn Ashbourne, Dr. Mortimer Crane, Clara Henshaw, and Victor Langley. Hercule Poirot stood at the table's head, his small, meticulous figure commanding silence. The vial, etched with MC, rested in his pocket, its secret poised to unravel the heinous act. His grey cells, honed to razor sharpness, wove the final threads of deduction. Mes amis, Poirot began, his Belgian accent precise. Lord Reginald Ashbourne died here, poisoned by cyanide in his wine, a crime of greed, betrayal, and cunning. The truth, it hides no longer. Let us unmask the guilty. His voice was calm, but his eyes, piercing as starlight, pinned each suspect. He paced, his shoes silent on the oak floor. The clues, they tell a story. The vial found beneath this table bears Dr. Crane's initials. Yet its placement, so obvious, suggests a frame. The forged letter accusing Victor, the stolen watch, red herrings to cloud, our path. Clara's diary, it speaks of love and fear, but not of murder. Victor's grudge, it burns, yet lacks proof. Evelyn's wealth, it beckons loudest. Evelyn stiffened, her emerald gown rustling. I'm innocent, Poirot, she protested, but her eyes darted to Crane, a flicker Poirot noted. He raised a hand. Patience, madame. Let us trace the poison's path. The decanter, tested, held cyanide's trace. Only Reginald's glass was tainted. Someone, close to the table, acted swiftly. Evelyn, you sat beside him. Clara, you adjusted the glasses. Crane, you were near the sideboard. Victor, your absence is suspect. Victor scoffed, lighting a cigarette. I was outside, Poirot. You've got nothing. His bravado was thin, and Poirot's gaze lingered. He turned to Clara, her grey dress blending with the shadows. Mademoiselle, your diary reveals your love for Reginald, your fear of Crane. You saw him with a vial, suspected poison. Why not speak? Clara's voice trembled. I was afraid. Crane threatened me. Her eyes flicked to Crane, who paled, and Poirot's deductions tightened. Dr. Crane, Poirot said, pivoting, your expertise, your access to cyanide, your weak alibi, all point to guilt. Yet the vial's initials, too perfect, suggest another's hand. Crane stood, his spectacles glinting. I'm framed. Evelyn, she wanted the estate. His accusation was desperate, and Poirot's moustache twitched. He faced Evelyn, his voice soft but relentless. Madame, your debts loomed, your jewels at stake. Reginald's death secures your fortune. Your tears, they dry too quickly. Evelyn's face hardened. You've no proof, Poirot. Her defiance was a mask, and Poirot sensed its cracks. He wove the threads together. The burned note in Victor's room, half charred, cra! A debt to Crane, repaid in silence. Victor, you knew of a plot but did not act. Clara, your suspicions of Crane were true, but you lacked courage. The diary's final words, "He knows too much," point to Crane's knowledge, not Reginald's. Crane stammered, "Lies! I prescribed tonics, nothing more." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "No, monsieur. You and Evelyn conspired. She, with charm, secured your loyalty. You, with poison, secured her wealth. The vial, yours, was planted by Evelyn to frame you if needed, a failsafe for her betrayal." Evelyn laughed, a brittle sound. "Absurd! I loved Reginald." Her hand clutched her necklace, and Poirot noted its tremor. He produced a glass from the sideboard filled with water. "A test, mes amis. This glass, like Reginald's, holds a truth. Who dares drink?" His voice was a challenge, and the room froze. Evelyn's eyes widened, her composure fraying. "You're bluffing, Poirot." Yet her gaze locked on the glass, fear betraying her. Crane, sweating, stepped back. "This is madness!" His panic was a confession, and Poirot's deductions crystallized. "The poison," Poirot said, "was in Reginald's glass, slipped by Evelyn during the meal's distractions. Crane supplied the cyanide, knowing its speed. Clara's adjustment of the glasses was innocent, a routine task exploited by Evelyn's timing. Victor's absence, a debt to Crane, kept him silent. Clara gasped, tears falling. I suspected, but I couldn't prove it." Her honesty cleared her, and Poirot nodded gently. Victor crushed his cigarette. "I owed Crane money, yes, but I didn't kill anyone." His admission was a relief, and Poirot dismissed him as a bystander. The dining hall's air grew heavy, the fog outside a silent witness. Poirot's method was unyielding, stripping away deception. Evelyn's greed, Crane's complicity. Their alliance was the heinous act's heart. The vial, a double-edged clue, had been Evelyn's insurance, dropped to implicate Crane if suspicion turned. He faced the pair, his voice resolute. "Evelyn, your late-night talks with Victor were a ruse to gauge his loyalty. Crane, your journal, your vial, tools of your trade twisted to murder. The truth, it is clear." Evelyn's mask slipped, her voice shrill. "You can't prove this." Poirot smiled faintly. "The police, they arrive soon. The decanter's residue, the vial, Clara's testimony, they will suffice." Chapter 10. Justice Served. The dining hall of Ashbourne Manor stood as a sombre stage, its chandeliers casting a muted glow over the polished mahogany table where Lord Reginald Ashbourne had met his end. The fog outside the 1930s estate's windows began to lift, as if the manor exhaled its secrets. Hercule Poirot faced the suspects: Lady Evelyn Ashbourne, Dr. Mortimer Crane, Clara Henshaw, and Victor Langley, his fastidious figure a beacon of resolve. The vial, etched with MC, had played its part, and now the truth, unveiled by Poirot's grey cells, demanded justice. "Mes amis," Poirot began, his Belgian accent precise, "the heinous act is exposed. A conspiracy of greed and betrayal poisoned Reginald Ashbourne. The guilty stand revealed, his eyes, sharp as justice itself, locked on Evelyn, whose emerald gown seemed to wilt under his gaze." He raised the glass of water, its surface glinting. "A test, madame," he said, extending it to Evelyn. "Drink, and prove your innocence." Evelyn lunged, her voice shrill. "It's safe!" she cried, snatching the glass but hesitating, her hand trembling. Her panic was a confession, and Poirot's smile was serene. "Water, madame, nothing more, yet your fear betrays you." The room froze, the suspect's breaths held. Crane, His spectacles, fogged with sweat, sank into a chair, his defiance crumbling. Clara's eyes brimmed with tears, her relief palpable. Victor, cigarette unlit, watched with grim fascination. Poirot set the glass down, his voice steady. "The truth, it is simple. Evelyn, you faced ruin, debts, jewels to be sold, Reginald's death secured the estate. Dr. Crane, you supplied the cyanide, lured by her promise of half the fortune, a pact sealed in poison." Evelyn's face contorted, her diamonds flashing. "Lies! You've no proof!" Her denial was desperate, but Poirot's calm held firm. He paced, his shoes silent on the oak floor. "The clues, they align. The decanter's residue, tested, confirms cyanide. The vial, Crane's, was dropped by you, Evelyn, to frame him if needed, a cunning failsafe. Clara's diary, her fear of Crane, exposed your plot. Victor's burned note, a debt to Crane, bought his silence, but not his complicity." Crane's head bowed, his voice a whisper. "She convinced me. Half the estate, freedom from this cursed house. I gave her the cyanide, showed her how." His confession, raw and broken, sealed their fate. Clara gasped, her hands clasped. "I knew. I suspected, but I was too afraid." Her honesty cleared her, and Poirot nodded gently, his gaze softening. Victor crushed his cigarette, his voice low. "I owed Crane money, yes, kept my mouth shut, but I didn't kill anyone." His admission, grudging but true, freed him, and Poirot dismissed him with a glance. Poirot turned to Evelyn, his voice relentless. "Madam, your late-night talks with Victor were a ruse, testing his loyalty. Your tears, your grief, a performance to mask greed. The wine glass, you tainted during the meal's distractions, using Crane's poison. Clara's adjustment of the glasses, innocent, gave you cover." Evelyn's mask shattered, her voice a snarl. "Reginald was a fool, squandering our wealth. I deserved the estate." Her admission spat in fury was the final nail, and Poirot's grey cells rested, satisfied. He recounted the crime's mechanics. The cyanide slipped into Reginald's glass, acted swiftly. The vial dropped beneath the table was your insurance, Evelyn, to shift blame to Crane. The forged letter, the stolen watch, distractions to muddy the truth. But the truth, it shines through deception. The dining hall's air lightened, the fog outside thinning as if in deference to justice. Poirot's method, meticulous and unyielding, had unravelled the conspiracy. The police, their sirens now audible, approached the manor ready to act on his findings. He faced the guilty pair. "Dr. Crane, your expertise became your downfall. Evelyn, your greed outwitted your cunning. The law, it awaits you both." Crane, defeated, offered no resistance. His shoulders slumped. Evelyn, her poise gone, glared with venom. "You're nothing, Poirot. A meddling foreigner." Her spite was impotent, and Poirot's smile was unruffled. He addressed Clara and Victor. "Mademoiselle, your courage, though late, aided truth. Monsieur, your debts do not excuse silence, but you are free of this crime." Clara's tears fell in relief. Victor nodded, his defiance softened. The police entered, their boots echoing, and Poirot briefed them with a precision. The vial, the decanter, Clara's testimony, Crane's confession. Evelyn and Crane were led away, her curses fading, his silence damning. The manor sighed, its shadows lifting with their departure. Poirot adjusted his hat, his eyes surveying the hall one last time. The shattered wineglass, Reginald's final moment, was gone, but its truth endured. "The grey cells," he murmured, "they never fail." He stepped into the dawn. The fog now, a memory, the case closed. The manor's clocks ticked on, marking a new chapter free of poison's grip. Justice, served by Poirot's relentless logic, restored order to Ashbourne's ancient walls.